Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well today. In this video, I'm going to start a series where I make the AI from Civ 6 play against itself to see who is the best AI at Civ. Now, I've been playing Civ 6 for a while, and I've been enjoying it, but I find it's a lot more fun when I watch other people play. And I figured, well, why not make a competition out of it, specifically with AI? Just a little side project of mine for fun. But anyways, just to get that out of the way, my motivations for it, let me show you the rules. So we're using the latest, so Gathering Storm, the rule set, the game difficulty and start era and stuff, that's all the same. So the city-states, the map is different. The map is fractal. Now normally you'd think, why not continents or snowflake or black clover or the different maps that are more balanced. And I thought of those two, but my friend suggested to me to do a fractal map because it would be a lot more imbalanced and it would lead to more excitement and randomness, which is going to be important later on in the AI duels. Now, of course, the map size is dual because we're doing one-on-ones. The leader pools 1 and 2. These are going to change, and I'll change them after I show you the graphs I've prepared earlier. The resources and everything else is pretty standard. None of the game modes are turned on to make it easier on my computer. And the victory conditions this time are only going to be domination and score. So this will be an exciting piece of adventure. I don't really want to see religious victories, or else we're just going to see Gandhi win practically every game, or Jayavarman the 7th or something. And everything else should be normal, except I removed barbarians because they make the game a lot slower and they don't really allow for good domination games. Alright, so let's go over the rules for this AI tournament. So the rule set is the one I showed earlier, the dual fractal map, domination, score victory. The always war is just an option for the autoplay mod, but it doesn't work for duel, so we can just remove that. Oops. Here we are. Now in each bracket, I'm basing this a bit off of hockey, which I'm a big fan of. So I put 8 leaders per bracket. With the autoplay mod, when you start a match, a duel match, the player that you're currently playing as, you turn that into an AI using the autoplay. So that gives you a disadvantage for X, Y, or Z reason if you play on anything other than Prince. So that's why we're playing this on Prince difficulty and not on Deity. I would have loved Deity, but unfortunately Deity AI gets an advantage compared to the player. So 7 games will be played as the player AI, and 7 games will be played as the enemy AI. So think of it, say, if I were to take Basil II and Poundmaker, I would play once as Basil II with my opponent as Poundmaker, and then set the autoplay. And then the second time they duel, I'll do the opposite. So Poundmaker will be the Civ I select, and then I'll have him play against Basil in the auto mod. And so that'll give a total of 14 games per AI, and the top 4 in the division go into playoff contention. So that will go into later. With the exception will be for the first 3 brackets, which will do 9 leaders, 8 games as player AI, 8 games as AI, and the top 4 still go into playoff contention, so that doesn't change. And I'll show you an example right here of what that looks like. So the points are important. So the points are based on the final score. The highest score / the last one standing in a match wins. And so when I'm talking about final score, I'm talking about the final score within a Civ 6 match. So if the last one, if we get a situation of domination victory where the opponent gets eliminated and 1 player is left, well then that player will win 3 points. If you're the AI and you lose and you get dominated, so you don't exist in the game anymore, you get 0 points automatically. If not, then winner gets 2 points, loser gets 1, as you can see on these graphs right here. And at the end of that match, if both players are left alive, you tally the points and you add them to their total score here in the second to last column. At the end of the bracket, the top four leaders with the most points will go off to the playoffs. So it's the final count here. So as you can see, the top four with the highest, they'll go into the playoffs. And if ever there's a tie, say there's two that have 25, the winner, or the one that's higher than the other, is the one with the highest final score. So when I mentioned earlier the tallying of the points, you'll tally that, and that'll be your final score here. A big thing I need to note is if you've lost by domination, you get 0 points from the match. Even if you had, say, a giant civilization or a tiny one, you get 0 points. And the winner gets, well, his usual points, or her usual points. And if there's still a tie, I forgot to show this, the winner's the most number of absolute wins and then of wins. So absolute wins is just domination wins, and wins is just score wins at the end. We can look at this spot right here just to see really quick. We have Simon Bolivar, Shaka from the Zulu, Jayavarman VII of Cambodia, Tamar, Gilgamesh, Elizabeth I, Wilhelmina, Teddy Roosevelt, and Saladin. And so this is the first column that shows the leaders. And in the notes here, I put which version of the leader. So here, playing as Bulmus Teddy, this is Sultan Saladin. GP is the games played, as I've written here. Each one is played 16 because this is a 9-player bracket. PAG is player AI games. So this is when they play as player AI. This is more just for tracking and to make it easier to tell who's playing who. Here we have the absolute wins. These are the domination wins, how many they've gotten. As we can see, Simon Bolivar's had 3, Tamar's had 0. Right here we have the wins, which is the just score victory wins. You have different numbers here. Losses is score victory losses, and in absolute losses is when they get dominated. Phrasing could be better, but you know what I mean. This is when they lose to a domination game. Right here's the final score. So this is just a tally of all the points they've collected throughout the matches, with the exception of absolute losses where they just get 0. And you have the final count here. The final count, pretty simple. You just do 3 times the absolute wins, plus 2 times the wins, plus the losses. And that'll give you your final count. The top 4 here go up, and so the division champion is Simon Bolivar. And then the 3 others that go are Shaka Zulu, Jayavarman VII, and Tamar. Yeah, and this also explains it. Absolute win, winner gets +3, loser gets 0. This happens when the winner completely conquers the opponent. W is a regular win, winner gets +2, loser gets +1. Happens when games and in score victories. And all points are recorded in the FC column. FC rating cannot go below 0. This was because before I set it so that loser gets -1, but that quickly made the balancing unstable. So I removed that. Here we have the Alpha division. We've already got Basil and Poundmaker who've played games. So as you can see, Basil was the one that was the player AI, and Poundmaker was not. Generally, the player AIs do not win a lot. If you see losses, it's generally from the player AIs, and I'm guessing it's because they're adapting to the player situation, or the player gets a different start. But I've tried in a billion ways, and really, the more random you make a game, the better it is for the player AI, which is why we're doing a fractal map, essentially. With that out of the way, here are the 3 divisions, and we're going to fill these up as we go along. And so the first video is really just to explain how the system works and how everything's going to play off in the long run. All right, so with that out of the way, I'm going to be playing through for a little bit. I'm going to skip through it in the editing, and I'll show you the final product. So now we're just going to start the game. So here we just have our usual game of 6. I put into strategic mode so it runs better on my computer. And all we're going to do now is we're going to make this run in the auto modder. And so it'll start working. All right, so going back to where we left off, the game between the Aztecs and the Spanish is finished. So we have Montezuma on the left, which was the original player, and then Philip II. For those of you wondering, whenever I run with the player AI, The sieve that we end on is the other AI, just to get a perspective from them, because generally they win, and you kind of want to avoid picking your own AI if they're going to get destroyed in domination. Just a little tidbit. So here, as we can see, got the little ribbons here that shows the scores, that shows the gold, the culture, the science. What we want to focus on mainly is the score. So, I mean, just from a standpoint, you could see that Philip has more points than Montezuma, which means that in this matchup, Philip wins against Montezuma by 1526 against 1455. Now, since Montezuma is still a player, that means that this is a win and a loss. So it's not an absolute win and an absolute loss because there was no domination victory here. Because we're playing until turn 500. And if by turn 500 neither of them have dominated each other, then we have this situation. So here, I mean, after that we could just look at the different civs. I mean, like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Spain is a lot more area than Montezuma, not to mention it's more science and culture, and I think more faith. Yeah, as you can see, Catholicism is spread throughout the entire continent, so yeah, seems like Philip II has won this. So here in our table, I'm going to put Montezuma and Philip II here in Alpha Division. So Montezuma, we'll put here, and Philip II right underneath. Montezuma and Philip both have one game played. The player AI was Montezuma, Philip not. Neither of them won an absolute win or an absolute loss yet. Montezuma lost, Philip II won. And as we can see, the score is already updated automatically to give Philip 2 points and Montezuma 1 point. If they did a rematch and Montezuma won and Philip lost, then the points would be 3 and 3 because it adds. And the final score, well, I'm going to look back at my Civ thing to add the final score. Just give me 1 second. So, Montezuma gets 1,455, and Philip II gets 1,526. There we are. And that's how it's going to run for a little bit. So I'm going to do this a few more times. And as soon as we have the Alpha Division, the Lorenz Division, and the Imaginary Divisions full, then we can get to seeing how, how the first 4 brackets are going to look, how the first 4 divisions. All right, now we've got our first 3 divisions ready. So in Alpha Division, we've already seen Basil II and Poundmaker. Basil II also played against Catherine de' Medici and lost in a match. And the other contenders we have are Montezuma, Philip II, Amanatori, Hammurabi, Theodora, and Kublai Khan. So overall, a pretty good selection and pretty balanced, I'd say. So far, the only one who's won a player-assisted game, well, in fact, I'd say it's none of them. As you can see. So all of them who've played as like the player AI, they've all lost. So that's nothing too crazy. That happens pretty much all the time, except for rare circumstances, which is why we also have the score. All right, in the Lorenz division, we've got Alexander and Yongle, Coupe, Joao III, Jadwiga, Wilfred Laurier, Mivemba Nzinga, Lady Six Guy, and Ludwig. One cool thing I find about Coupe is he's probably the only one who's won a player game so far against Joao III. So that's really impressive, and that's definitely going to help him in the long run for this division. In terms of points, though, number 1 is Lady Six Guy, and I'm not surprised, honestly, because these are tiny maps, and her ability, which extends to cities near her capital, is very broken on these kind of maps. Over here in the Imaginary Division, we've got Harald Hadrada, the Kong version, Dido, Genghis Khan, Nader Shah, Trajan, Cleopatra. Cleopatra is the classic Egyptian, Nzinga Mbande, and Pedro II. So out of these ones, the one to win their player AI games are Genghis Khan and Trajan, which is going to help them a lot. Nonetheless, though, the one with the most points is Dido, who won her match against Harald Hadrada. And so the score is looking like this so far. So in first place here we have Dito, and you have the others who are going to play against each other. I think it'll be a great time to start playing them a few more times for this video. And next video, what I'll do is I'm going to name the other tables, or at least name 2 new tables to add more leaders. All right, so now the final game of today has been finished. As we can see, Nader Shah was the AI playing against the player AI, which is Cleopatra, and he has won. He won a score victory, not a domination victory, which means that he's going to be getting the 1353. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. And +2, whereas Cleopatra will only get the 963 and +1. Let's go over to see what the scores are looking like now. All right, so here are 3 divisions that we picked today, or rather this week, and the results. So in Alpha Division so far, we have Catherine de Medici currently in first place with 7 points. She got 3 wins and 1 loss. What's interesting here is she won one of her versus games, which you don't always see, and really that plays a great role in the long run for who makes it to the end. As you can see up here, for example, it doesn't show, but Simon Bolivar had a lot of wins at home, which really got him to the top of that leaderboard. Then we have Kublai Khan, who didn't play any player-assisted games, Hammurabi Poundmaker, Theodora Manatori, Philip Basil II, and finally Montezuma at the bottom, who lost all 4 of his games, even when he wasn't playing as the player-assisted AI. Now, Kublai Khan, I'm a bit nervous because he lost one of his games without playing as an AI, which means that he might have a chance of getting more losses in that manner. So definitely is something to keep an eye out for. None of them won through domination, as you can see in this section here. So nothing too exciting. Scores are pretty close. Highest is 7 for the top 3, and then lowest is the 4th. Next, we've got the Lorenz division. So at the top, we've got Coupe, followed by Wilfred Laurier, Memphis Zinga, Ludwig, Jadwiga, Lady Six Guy, Alexander, Yongle, and Joao III. This one's interesting because we did have domination victories, and 2 of them were by Coupe himself. So far, all of his games playing against other player AIs ended in absolute victories. So this is another Civ to be careful for. And plus, he won one of his games playing as the player AI, which means, in my opinion, he's going to be close to becoming a top contender. I mean, he has 9 points, and the other next 3 next 5 or 6 have 6 points. So he's doing really well. Then from here, it's just a matter of the final score. Since they all have 6 points, you want to rank by the final score. So here, we've got, Van Bazinga with Laurier. Pretty good. I mean, pretty standard. They lost their versus matches, and then they won at like someone else's place, which is pretty big, but not too surprising. That's how most AIs go anyways, except for Alexander. Now, Alexander got an absolute win playing against Yongle, but then got an absolute loss against Coupe. So he was one of those 2 absolute wins. So he's got 1 of each. So he's another one that could be interesting. He could get more absolute wins, but we won't really know until later on. But what this does mean, though, as we know from earlier, is if you get an absolute loss, you get +0, which is kind of a bad thing. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to get +0. You want to get more points to break ties. That's why Wilfred Laurier, Vavazinga, and Ludwig are at the top, because they've got more points, even though they have the same amount of counts. I should probably change the name later. They have a higher score rather than here, which are points. That makes more sense. And in the case of a tie in score, which is very unlikely, I'll probably implement something where it depends on the type of wins you get. And if that's the exact same, maybe like a tiebreaker. But anyways, that's the Lorenz division. And here, the imaginary division, I forgot to sort it out. So I'm going to sort it out right away. As we can see, the top here is Trajan and Zingambande, followed by, the scores are not correct. I'm going to just edit that real quick. Let's see. I'll put Genghis Khan underneath here, and then put Harold Hadrada, and then from here, I believe Nader Shah's in the wrong spot. I'll just change that real quick. That's the benefit of using Excel, is you can do these little changes, and it saves a lot of time. This also needs to be changed, which is annoying. Let's do that. Boom. There you go. So really the first one is Zingambande, followed by Trajan, Harold Hadrada, Pedro II, Genghis Khan, Nader Shah, Dido, and Cleopatra. Great games for Nzingabande. She has the only absolute win against Cleopatra, so that's pretty great. And I put here just what games they play, because I didn't do it for the first one here. So I've been doing that for each division since, just to give you an idea of who won, who lost against who. So she got her absolute win against Cleopatra. She even won one at home, which is a very big advantage. And that's why she's at 8 right now. Same with Trajan. Trajan's just been very consistent. He's won every game so far in score. Harold Hadrada and Pedro doing well. Sorry. So overall, pretty good division. We just have Cleopatra down here who's a bit stuck with the lesser good players. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole division changes. And once again, thank you all for watching. I'm sorry if my voice has been a bit quiet in this video. I've been dealing with a cold this week, so it's kind of slowed down the production. But hopefully in the future, the videos will have a much more cleaner look to them, much cleaner explanation for things, and hopefully my voice will be a lot better. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.